here today we have a Zenith again. Seem to be working on a lot of these, which is fine. I actually have quite a few Zeniths I have to work on. This is a 6D630. I've actually wanted one of these for a while. I don't really know why. They're kind of odd looking, but just always wanted to work on one of these. I thought they were kind of cool. I love the round, like the target in the middle, and then the buttons on the side. It's just very symmetrical. It's just a cool design. This one, the cabinet's in really nice shape. Just a couple little dings. I can kind of touch that up. Side looks good. Front's good. This side, again, just there, which I can touch up. So that's pretty nice. The knobs are unfortunately kind of distorted. That's made out of that tenite that seems to just disintegrate. So here's the chassis. Kind of a cool design, as you can see. Cord is a little tied up in there. All right, that can be cleaned. Uses some lockable tubes. This is kind of a disaster. Let's get on here clearly. Alright, well, I'll fix that later. So the question is, what are we going to find underneath? I have not pulled this open. Let's see. Before I do this, do you think it's going to be completely original? I'm going to say yes. Watch me be wrong. Looks original. There's the thunder. But yeah, definitely looks original. These radios are pretty well made, so they definitely seem to hold up. So this asbestos fiber here is not good. I gotta get rid of that. Okay, so there's really not that much to do here other than change some capacitors. And the hardest thing is going to be this multi-section capacitor down here at the bottom. And I think what we're going to have to do is restuff this. Now the nice thing about that is this has a cover over it. So all I have to do is remove the cover and then cut the metal away. I do that with the Dremel. And then I can just remove the innards and put new capacitors inside. I think it's only 3. Actually, is it even 3? I think it's only 2. Okay. So basically the hardest part here is going to be the rest of it. And then there's a little bit of rubber wiring. Now the question is, how much of a problem is this rubber wiring going to be? I don't know. It doesn't look too bad from first glance, but as I start moving parts around to get to things like that, it may be showing itself as more of an issue. That is factory. That's a Zenith thing. They love to do that kind of stuff. Tie components together in air. Nothing unusual. Sorry, my throat is we're dealing with smoke from the wildfires up in Nova Scotia. Which is pretty terrible. I think they're under control now, but still, it's terrible for them. But also, we get the bad effects of it. So just something to remember that if you are going to have a campfire or a bonfire or whatever, try and at least wait for it to be damp, because you don't want to start a forest fire. So I'm partway there with the recapping. I also changed this wire. I got to heat shrink that, but that wire was falling apart, and it goes to a part on the outside, which actually this I have to remove in order to restuff that capacitor. So that side I probably won't bother with unless it's really bad. Yeah, so keep going. Okay, change most of the capacitors. I guess got to do these two, which I'm going to do with the cord, and then these two over here, which are going to be a little tight. But yeah, there's actually quite a few in this. I bet most of them are for the tone control. I see I just changed the coupling capacitor there. That's for the audio. Yeah, so you can see coming off the volume control, probably tone related capacitors. So I went to go take this capacitor, the can off. You know, this is supposed to usually come off, but I guess they use so much glue. I tried heating it up with a heat gun. I tried everything. Can't get it to come off. So we have two choices. I can either wire the capacitors underneath, which I don't really want to do, but I could, or I can cut this can about here and then put it back, tape it together. I think that's the direction I'm going to go. With black tape, you'll see it a little, but it won't look too bad. I'm going through here, just managed to get the electrolytics in, and I'm changing this couple of last capacitors, and I found this resistor here. It's supposed to be a 150K, and I'm getting about 250, so I think I'm going to change that. Okay, we're going to power this up. I've changed all the capacitors, cleaned everything up, kind of. I'm going to turn that on. This is off, right? Do off. Let's give it 20 volts. Why do I not see anything? 35. Weird. All right, hold on. Okay, I saw the bulb get a little bright. It's only 50 volts. Oh, bulb came on a little. Should hear something. We're at 65, 75. Should hear something. Nothing at all.
The NBA Finals in a non-lockout year that statistically this Denver would not.
Someone put a
that were seeded 7 or lower. It's the
50 L6 output tube instead of a 35 L6.
You know, when you look at it subjectively.
Cool. So I do need to clean that tuning capacitor, and probably these switches a little bit. They're a little dirty, I think, but you know, at least I know it works. I was like, what is going on with this? It took forever to warm up, which is okay. It is an acceptable substitute. The difference basically is that it uses, so today, you know, most houses have 120 volts, maybe 122, something like that. We actually, here, ours is pretty low. We're at about 117, 118. Sometimes it goes up to 119, but typically it's pretty low. So these radios were built for about 115 volts. Well, anywhere from 110 to 120 theoretically. But once the voltage starts going up, it stresses out the tubes a little more. It's not going to kill them. Might shorten their lifespan, but I mean, realistically, how much are you going to listen to a radio like this? That being said, I have left them on for hours before. Because like I said, I always say I do like listening to the radio. Anyway, the thing that we have to do here is just clean out some of the controls. Okay, so I'm just going to spray these out and then rotate it. That should get most of the junk out of it. One thing to keep in mind, if you do this with contact cleaner like I'm doing, you know, obviously it'll dry up. This does not affect plastic, does not affect metal, obviously. This stuff dries up pretty well. The one thing to keep in mind with this is you never want to spray the tuning capacitor out and do an alignment until it's dry. So this will not be getting aligned probably for days. I'm going to let it make sure it's really dry before I can do anything. I see someone bent these plates out probably in a previous alignment, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. So that should be a little bit better. I noticed it was having problems more on the lower end of the dial. It was also having problems moving. Now it seems to be totally free, which is wonderful. Perfect. I'm pretty excited about this radio. I don't know why. The dial is really cool. You know, sometimes you just buy what you like. To be honest, I mean, you just have to buy what you like. And that's my collecting philosophy. Sometimes, you know, it makes sense. There's certain radios that you buy because they're collectible and they'll go up in value, but for the most part, I tend to go for what I like to buy, which is not always the most valuable. Come on. Oh, yes. Yes, we are not succeeding with this. Typically, it's hard to do with one. There we go. There we go. Okay. Beautiful. Put one in there too. Beautiful. So now this will move nice and free. Very good. And we'll power it up, you know, at full voltage at some point and see how it plays. I bet it'll perform pretty well. It's a 6-tube set, so it probably has an RF stage. I must confess, I barely even looked at the schematic. To be honest, I basically recapped it and just said, you know, let's see if it works. And, you know, well, after that little bit with the questioning why it wasn't doing anything, you know, it works. So I don't think I'm even going to look at the schematic, but I believe it does have an RF. I believe that's the RF amp. So this should perform very well, even though it is just a, you know, simple series string radio. You know, between the RF amp, the tone controls, which are, you know, controlled with these buttons, they're a bunch of capacitors that it brings in and out of circuit. And, you know, these antennas, this is like a Faraday cage, and these are fantastic. The Zenith really knew what they were doing. So with all of those features combined, this is definitely a better than average radio. Plus, it's got a really nice cabinet. Okay, we have a working radio across the dial.
Sure that you are burning fat and not. York Bay Extension 24 is an absolute stand.
In years, you may not understand the significance of the
A
information.
little quiet on the low end. I think the alignment is just a little off. Let's just play with this. Here, this is the oscillator.
Series of dominoes that leads to an arrest and a successful prosecution.
Police are not releasing any details of this case because they want to make sure that any information generated by this reward is information.
And we'll go all the way to the end of the dial.
Has been for the last running coal plant to retire. The group threw a retirement party for the Merrimack Generation Station in New Hampshire, which is owned by an investment group in Connecticut. Organized some practice and Mars and the police respond.
Close enough.
Donaldson is starting.
Tina Dittel, News 8.
Excitement is building at the University of Hartford for a White House
Volume's
visit.
pretty good.
Biden will attend Senator Chris Murphy's gun summit on Friday.
Oh, God.
Today, I asked the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre,
Yes,
about
let's
the
say
trip
we're doing
and why the
something.
president feels Connecticut is an important place to address gun safety and more gun control.
Connecticut has been a leader.
It's nothing to do with safety, I'll put it that way. Anyway, so this is working. It needed a, well, it's actually a 50L6 that I threw in there. Output tube was shorted. It's had a hum, it sounded terrible. And then the pins on the lockable tubes were just a little dirty, so I cleaned those up a bit. Other than that, I mean, it plays fine. I did need to, one of the little, what do you call it, things on the tuning capacitor were a little bent and touching, so it would short out partway through across the dial. But it's playing pretty well.
Foundation and opened his own coffee
Sounds
shop in neighboring
great.
Woodbridge.
That's what we do.
Gotta say.
To be able to help patients because these injuries happen all the time. And it's
Sounds really good.
in New Jersey every year. So that life does go on.
In Edison, Marla
Shut that off. Yeah, so I'm just going to call it done. I do want to clean off this dust on the dial. Got to be careful with that. So this is actually printed on a very thin piece of foil. You can kind of see if it wants to focus. Focus. Thin piece of foil glued over cardboard, so you can't really mess with that too much. The slightest bit damp, maybe. Here's the shorted tube. I'll throw that one out. Changed all the capacitors. Like I said, that output tube, a shorted tuning condenser. But yeah, no, it's playing pretty well. I did replace a couple rubber wires. I'm not going to go crazy with it because, you know, A, they're not touching anything. B, the insulation's still on it until you move it.
Down. Heavy delays also continuing. ATORlawgroup.com.
Back together.
On the eastern seaboard United States, I'm Rashad Salam. It's right here in our Hong Kong studios alongside Falls, Patterson area, that is moving east north.
The dial is not quite lined up. That's 850.
Newark is around.
So we kind of messed that
To
up.
hire armies of new IRS agents, stop coal, and turn around, go to retirement.
This is Under Out West. I'm Erin Hawksworth here to help you beat the books with Bet
Probably 600.
Clayton Kershaw and the Dodgers host the White Sox tonight, and the bet
Of last week for possession
No,
of
that's
child
600.
pornography has been released from custody after posting $200,000 bail.
Yeah, I gotta
Prosecutors
figure out
say
this
David
style
Holmes
alignment.
was arrested last week after a 6-month investigation and charged with
Erin Hawksworth, bet smarter. Beat the books. Download
Otherwise,
the
it sounds
BetQL
pretty good.
app today.
It's probably 660.
It's the Nissan Yankees pregame show.
In Toronto, Dean will teach you expert sales tips and strategies to ensure you close deals quicker.
Sounds
and
pretty
easier.
good.
Visit nydradio.com to listen to past interviews with corporate executives.
Route 109 outbound, 15 to 20-minute delays.
to do nothing today.
We would
Ser parte de algo.
Spoilers.com to find a dealer near you. VIP.
Right. Juliet Papa, 1010 wins on 92.3
clearly,
FM.
1100.
With
It's a
this
little
on
off.
631. Time now for traffic and transit with Greg Wright.
Lori, Subway Series has been the big story tonight. You got all that
Definitely not
traffic
bad.
heading for Citi Field in Queens. And